Sophia had been seeing her partner in secret for 3 years. When he died suddenly from a heart attack, she wasn't listed in the obituary. She wasn't invited to the funeral. To his family, she didn't exist. But her grief was real. She had loved him deeply and planned a future with him. In the weeks after his death, she found herself grieving alone, unable to speak openly with friends, and struggling with shame for mourning someone society didn't recognize as hers to lose. Her pain wasn't acknowledged, and that made her feel invisible and deeply stuck. Welcome to this mini-series on understanding the language of grief, loss, and trauma. My name is Nathalie Himmelrich. I'm a somatic practitioner, psychological therapist, educator, and author, specializing in grief and trauma, and the host of the How to Deal with Grief and Trauma podcast. Grief and trauma are deeply human experiences, yet many of us struggle to describe what we are going through or to understand what others are facing. The vocabulary of loss is vast, varied, and sometimes overwhelming. In this short podcast episode series, we'll explore the different types of grief, loss, and trauma that people encounter throughout life. Each mini-episode serves both as an educational tool and a compassionate companion for anyone trying to make sense of their own experience with grief, loss, and trauma, or someone who is supporting someone else who is. These terms are more than labels. They are doorways into greater understanding, healing, and connection. Whether you are a bereaved parent, a caregiver, a therapist, or someone walking alongside a grieving friend or someone who has experienced trauma, these bite-sized episodes aim to give you language, insight, and tools. Each one includes a definition, some key considerations, an explanation of why it matters, relevant podcast episodes, and frequently asked questions that I have been asked by my clients and you, the listener of the podcast. And my answers are all grounded in both professional and lived experience. So let's begin. Disenfranchised grief refers to a form of mourning that is not openly acknowledged, socially validated, or publicly supported. It often occurs when a relationship, the loss itself, or the griever is not seen as significant in the eyes of others. This type of grief leaves individuals without the usual expression of sympathy or communal mourning rituals. Disenfranchised grief can stem from a wide range of situations, including miscarriage, abortion, death of an ex-spouse, the passing of a pet, or the loss of a loved one in a stigmatized relationship, such as an affair or LGBTQ partnership not accepted by family. It may also arise in cases of job loss, estrangement, or when grieving someone who caused harm. People experiencing this form of grief often feel invalidated, isolated, or ashamed of their emotions, sometimes even questioning the legitimacy of their own sorrow. Lack of acknowledgement can deepen the pain of the loss, leading to unresolved or prolonged grief. When a griever is denied the spaces to express and process their emotions, they may feel abandoned or misunderstood or compelled to suppress their pain. This kind of emotional invalidation can also make people more vulnerable, for example, to depression or anxiety, and often self-doubt. By understanding and naming disenfranchised grief, we can validate the full spectrum of human relationships and experiences, and also making space for people to mourn without judgment. I have yet to speak with someone for the podcast on the topic of disenfranchised grief. As you can imagine, talking about this form of invalidated and isolating form of grief can be challenging. So if you know someone who is open to speak publicly about their loss, let them know about the podcast or send me an email and introduce them to me. A couple of the questions that I'm often asked by listeners. So why does no one understand my grief? So social norms and expectation often define what counts as valid, for example, in grief, leaving non-traditional or hidden losses unrecognized. What can I do when I experience disenfranchised grief? I recommend seek validating spaces such as support groups, grief-informed therapists, or literature that affirms your experience. Writing about your grief or speaking with trusted friends can also create healing pathways. Another question, is it okay to grieve someone I wasn't supposed to love? Absolutely. Love and connection exists in many forms, and your pain is real regardless of how others perceive the relationship. Another question is, how do I explain my grief and others don't understand? You don't owe anyone a justification for your pain. If you choose to share, try saying, this person or this situation or this pet meant a lot to me and I'm grieving in my own way. I appreciate your support. Can this kind of grief lead to long-term effects? Yes, without validation, disenfranchised grief can become complicated or prolonged grief. So recognizing and seeking appropriate outlets is the key to healing. I can really recommend to find a grief-literate therapist, try them out, and see if you feel that they get where you are. In the next episode, I'm going to be speaking about complicated or also called prolonged grief. I hope this episode has helped you feel more grounded in the language of loss, grief, or trauma, and maybe even offered you some clarity, validation, or insight into your own experience or the experience of someone you care about. Grief and trauma are deeply personal, yet universal. When we can name what we're feeling, we take one powerful step closer to healing and the integration of our experience back into our life. If this series resonates with you, I invite you to keep exploring. You'll find more resources, courses, and ways to work with me at nathaliehimmelrich.com. And of course, you're always welcome to revisit any of the episodes whenever you need a gentle reminder that you're not alone. Until next time, take good care of your heart.